but the recession is over. We have a jobless recovery today. Employers are reluctant to hire. You've seen all the stuff in the newspapers. Here's a few. No hurry to hire. Surveys show stagnant job market. Hiring outlook looks bad. Few jobs ahead. Hiring remains elusive. I can just go on and on with these things. I mean, this is just recently too. Okay, so the lack of hiring translates into less consumer spending. It puts a cap on growth, and then you've got this threat of more foreclosures that we've been hearing for at least a year. All right, you've been seeing these things. I've got lots of newspaper articles on this. All right, so that's a problem. That keeps people on guard, and it keeps the credit markets in a heightened state of alert. They're just bracing for this, okay? And then it constrains lending as a result. So we're wondering about that. I'll talk about foreclosures here as we go. What about the stimulus? Okay, that's supposed to create jobs, or was. Okay, remember this? I looked this up. It was in the Wall Street Journal, January 10th, a year ago. And it said that nearly 4 million were to be created by the fourth quarter of 2010 with the stimulus. All right, and 265 billion have been spent so far of the 787 billion economic stimulus passed last February. So about 35% has been allocated to date, but job creation has been essentially non-existent. Okay, we need to get to 4 million by the end of the year. All right, and the studies that I've seen done, and there are 5 different universities, quote, virtually no correlation between stimulus money and the number of construction workers hired or fired in the community over the past year. There hasn't been any. The administration claims, well, we saved those jobs from being lost. Didn't necessarily create new ones. That would have been, so we're already at 8.4 million, we'd be at 12 billion, which seems kind of unlikely. So anyway, the money hasn't really produced the job stimulus that it was espoused to. And besides, we don't really need stimulus. You know, the economy is self-correcting, self-healing system. We're going to produce jobs, and it's going to correct with or without any government intervention, and probably better without any government intervention. We really don't want any more stimulus. It doesn't work. Here's job growth in California. I showed the U.S. version. Here's the California version. It's doing the same thing, but it's not quite where the U.S. is. It's lagging the U.S. a little bit, but you can see that with or without stimulus, we're starting to not have as many layoffs, and we're very close to the point in which we're going to be into positive job creation. But jobs lag the rest of the economy in terms of the economic indicators. So here, as we start 2010, we started a whole new decade. And the one we just came off is horrible. Was horrible. I'll talk about that. All right? It'll be a transition year. You'll see steady progress. There's going to be no W-shaped recession. The fundamentals aren't there for that. And the recovery doesn't lack much strength, but it will. You'll see the momentum slowly build. It's already building. You saw the indicators. They're moving up, some in case sharply. Either way, we're probably not going to be as bad as we were in the 2000s, the last decade. All right? You've seen our newspaper articles about this. I call it the lost decade, okay, because there were basically lows and not too many highs. Let's talk about this real quick. Here's some selected events of the 2000s. We started with Y2K. Remember this? On 12 o'clock at 1 second past midnight, if you were in an airplane, it was going down. Right? Your ATM would crash, you know, and everything else would go to hell. But that didn't happen at all. That was a big dud. Y2K. Then we had the dot-com crash. It was in March. NASDAQ reached 5,400. It's not even half that today. Okay. And then 9/11 came a year later. Right? And then the U.S. invaded Afghanistan not long after that. And then Iraq in the spring. Subprime mortgages were starting to be offered by Freddie and Fannie in 2002. The beginning of the end. The start, that was the bubble. That's the start of the bubble. Right there. All right? Hurricane Katrina. Right? The Great Credit Crunch. August, September of 2007. The recession started in 2008. Crude oil hit 146 the following July. Fannie and Freddie were seized by the government, on September 8th, 2008. Lehman was allowed to fail a week later. And then the first big bailout program, $700 billion. All those events really pushed the country and the economy into recession in the fall of 2008. The Dow lost 30% of its value in just a 3-month period. It was a bloodbath. Kind of don't want to relive that. And then Madoff arrested in December. Okay, that was just through the first 8 years. That was only through 2008. Here, 2009 was real bad. All right, here, 2009, economic stimulus bill passed by Congress in February, a year ago. Okay, has $787 billion ever made so few people happy? No. Stock market hits a 12-year low in March. 12-year low. March 9th was the bottom. Okay, the complicated TARP 2, Tim Geithner plan, never implemented, never will be, to buy the toxic assets. This just fizzled out. California's debt rating, BBB, just above junk. That was in June. All right, the swine flu. It's purported to be this end-all to beat-all flus. All right, nobody got sick. Faded into All right, Billy Mays dies. OxyClean will never be the same. Okay, Madoff sentence, 150 years. All right, Tiger Woods unravels. It just goes on and on. The U.S. Senate passes the very unpopular federal health care plan. With a lot of different, but that's probably dead now. But that's very unpopular. So, I mean, all these, I can't think of any good events in 2009. Here's total employment in the U.S. Start of the decade, end of the decade. December 1999, 2009 is December. Okay, here we are. That's where we are now. Here's where we started. About the same. 10 years, no gain. A little bit of gain. There's actually a little positive gain there. Okay, here's the Dow. Here we are at the end of the year. Here's how we started the decade. It's lower. 10 years, nothing. All right, here's crude oil prices. Ended at 80, started at about 28. 3.5 times higher. Consumer savings rate, this is good. It's ended up close to 5% of your personal income is now being saved. Started at about 2.8. So this is going to lead us into a much better decade. Good news. All right, here's the general outlook. This is why you're feeling bad. The economy isn't creating jobs. You just came off a horrible decade in which there was significant volatility, and there's been really no gain in a lot of the economic indicators on net over the last 10 years. Okay, but going forward, things are going to be better. All right, we're going to show continued improvement. It'll be steady this quarter, next. All right, job loss is over. Permanent hiring probably won't occur in a way in which you'll notice it until summer. The unemployment rate is probably near its high right now for the cycle. It could go a little bit higher, depends on if people drop out of the labor force or not. But it's near its high. Probably will hit its high in the second quarter, and that's it. Housing will strengthen. It'll gradually strengthen. It's not going backward. More convincing evidence of growth you'll see in the second half of this year. And interest rates are not expected to remain at today's lows, but we don't look for a real material increase in them either. And we'll talk about that. I'm sure Kyle will talk about it. We're talking about California. and Southern California. So here's the same picture for California I showed you for the U.S. Here, employment today, employment start of the decade, we're down by about 75,000 workers. And yet we've gained 5 million new people in the state in that time period. So we have less jobs, more people. We lost decade. Here, this may infuriate you. Here's private sector, so I've just taken out all the public sector. Okay, here's where we are. We're down 300,000 from the start of the decade. Okay, the growth industry has been the public sector. Right, we're up 200,000. So it's the public sector that's gained. Private sector has lost over the last 10 years. And that's probably not any surprise for you. So in California, when's that going to grow again, as the economy recover. Well, here's that same picture for Southern California.